life, I have told a great many people to watch Deep Space Nine. It is by far my absolute favorite Star Trek, and somewhere between the ages of 16 and 20, I've transformed into a Star Trek televangelist, imploring all my friends and family to give it a shot. When I do convince those lucky few to watch it, I know I only have a few weeks of peace until they get to the season 6 episode, The Magnificent Ferengi, and inevitably ask the same question. Is that Iggy Pop? Welcome to Track Record. I'm your host Rebecca, and today we're going to be talking about that time the godfather of punk was on Star Trek. So this may surprise some of you due to the fact that I run a Star Trek YouTube channel, Dwell Dweeby Fanner, and Drive a Honda, but I am actually a very big punk metal fan. Like, genuinely. The few times I ever snuck out in high school was to see Gwar live, and I've gotten my glasses broken in more mosh pits than you'd probably guess. But that being said, I'm not expecting like a huge portion of my audience to know who Iggy Pop is, so I will give you a brief rundown. Iggy Pop is the stage name of James Osterberg Jr. He was the frontman of the late 60s proto-punk band The Stooges, who were foundational in the development of the punk, rock, and grunge sounds that would make up much of the 90s soundscape. As a musician, he's done basically every genre, bopping from garage to new wave to hard rock to jazz, but he was really most notable for his stage antics. He would ride around on broken glass, perform naked, and actually, he's accredited with creating the stage dive. In order to understand how Iggy Pop went from here to here, we have to talk about this guy. This is Ira Steven Behr, a producer and writer on Star Trek Deep Space Nine and briefly TNG. Ira's a big face in the fandom, fairly recognizable, perhaps due to some notable feature on his face, I couldn't guess what, and I would say he's pretty well liked. His impact on Trek could have a video all on its own, but for now, all you need to know is that Ira Behr was making a lot of decisions about Star Trek in the 90s, one of which was he decided Iggy Pop would be on it. Basically, he was a huge Iggy Pop fan and made it his personal goal to get him on the show. I gotta say, if I was a producer on any popular TV show, I too would use that as a way to meet my favorite musicians. I would also very much like to see pop group Bewitched as Klingons. He convinced Trek to approach Iggy Pop several times for a guest appearance. From best I could find, it does seem like Iggy himself was a Star Trek fan, though certainly not at the level of Jason Alexander or Whoopi Goldberg, who famously approached Star Trek. This was the other way around. It more seemed like Ira's position as Iggy Pop's stan was basically solely responsible for his place in the canon. At first they wanted him to play a much smaller role in one of their 2-part episodes, but Iggy had to pull out when he got injured in a mosh pit because he is so fucking punk.
That is so punk rock.
Ira was determined to get him on there, so they decided to cast him as Vorta in The Magnificent Ferengi instead, which is very funny to me for 3 reasons. 1, this is in no way an insignificant role in this episode. He has like 5 minutes of screen time, which for a guest is a pretty substantial amount of time. 2, Iggy Pop was a massive star who they certainly had to pay a pretty penny to get him on the show, and then immediately put him in full face prosthetics. And 3, he's actually fucking hilarious in this episode.
Family, you understand.
Not really. I was cloned.
I thought the Breen were annoying.
I'd love to hear more, but if your son doesn't show up soon, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to kill you.
I've been ready for hours.
In a truly delightful twist, Iggy Pop is very good in this role. His timing is spot on, he emulates the Vorta we've already met perfectly, and he gets who he is and what show he's on. The whole thing is just fun. You could tell that everyone on set that day was like, why is Iggy Pop on Star Trek? And that energy is electric to me. Also, I really love how Iggy Pop says Vorta. It makes me think of how my grandfather would have said it, if he knew what a Vorta was.
1 Vorta against 6 Ferengi.
So next time you'll be watching DS9 or recommending it to a friend, keep an eye out for our man Iggy over here, and think to yourself how much better this episode would have been if they let him do it pantsless. Alright, so that was the first episode of a new mini-series on this channel that I'm calling Special Guest Stars. Star Trek is a very prolific show and has gotten a lot of weird cameos that delight me to no end, so I figured on weeks where I'm a little busy like this one, these little stories can hold us over. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've ever noticed the godfather of punk behind those eel frills, and also if there were any fan stories you would like to hear in the future. Until then, live long, and I will see you at Quarks. That's my goodbye, I think.